So this is just something on Twitter that I saw. Joe Biden out for a little early morning Saturday stroll, takes a tumble off of his bike, and we don't want to laugh. It feels like you're laughing at the elderly at this point with Biden. But there you can see, it looks like he's coming to a stop and then goes down. So Joe Biden, just unbelievable stuff there. But guys, I've wanted to make this video for a little while, taking a look at Joe Biden's approval rating with the inflation, with the gas prices currently 54% disapproval according to 538. And the craziest thing about this, his approval rating compared to Trump is actually lower. 514 days into his stint, in the White House, it's lower than Trump, and that's with Trump receiving 90% negative media attention, him being a Republican, the media calling him racist, sexist, he's Hitler, whatever. Biden, the Democrat, receiving mainly positive reviews from the mainstream media because there's no conspiracy. The mainstream media is majority in America, majority Democrat, and Biden still has a worse approval rating at this point than Trump. And there's actually, I want to see, 538 does a pretty good job with their polls. I wonder if we can go to their, because I want to show you guys something, and it just depicts the shift in this country. Okay, I'm trying to find the polls, but these headlines, 530, this is, so we've got January 6th is the number one headline. That's kind of the thing they've shifted to. Guys, it's so interesting. So you've got the January 6th hearings, and they're supposed to be this huge thing. And CNN is focused on it. MSNBC is focused on it for obvious reasons. January 6th was a terribly negative event for Republicans. It was horrible. So they're focused on it. But it's not that it's funny. It's just kind of ridiculous that they're so focused on this as gas costs like $6 a gallon, as we have record high inflation. And this is the only thing that matters, because it's very negative for Republicans and positive for Democrats. Of course, Fox News, on the other hand, I'm sure is going to focus on inflation a lot more, as opposed to really not covering the January 6th trial. But these headlines, what happens when American children learn about racism? What it's like to open an abortion clinic right now? What is this crap? This is journalism? Has your state made it harder to vote? Well, I mean, that's the whole thing with, it's funny with the whole ID thing. Of course, Democrats want to make it easier to vote, because if someone shows up to the polls without an ID, more likely than not, they're voting for a Democrat. And of course, Republicans want to make sure you have your ID because they don't want those people to vote. So it's just, that whole thing is ridiculous. But 538 has really got to do a better job with their site, guys. It's like, I have to Google it. So these are the latest polls. This is the thing I wanted to show you guys that's very interesting. And then, listen, we're going to talk about something that happened on CNN. I quickly wanted to touch on it. I screenshotted it. We're going to talk about this. But this is just the generic overall ballot for the 2022 cycle. And it says Republicans plus 2.3. You may look at this and be like, that's not a big deal. It's a toss-up, whatever. But guys, that is a major shift. The Republicans leading the, generic ballot across the United States. You guys can see, Republican plus 5 in that poll, even Republican plus 4, Democrat plus 4, Democrat plus 4, Republican plus 3. So it's a toss-up. But when you compare that to the 2020 midterm generic poll and the 2018, I mean, this shows you the shift right here. Let's just look at the 2021. So the Democrats, basically the entire time the polls were being tracked for about, about a year or whatever, even more than a year, July 2019 through October 2020, the Democrats had about a 7-point advantage. Going back to 2018, the Democrats, the entire year, never trailed in the overall average. Very similar. About a year and a half worth of poll tracking, they were always plus 7 or 8 points. They're not even close to trailing in the overall polling average. Sure, you might get 1 or 2 polls where a Republican leads, but overall, it's the Democrats in significant control by 7 or 8 points, and then you compare that to 2022, this is the most obvious way you can see the current shift in this country. Whether you want to blame it on inflation, the Biden administration, whatever, the gas prices, either way, this is a major shift, and a lot of Democrats are starting to realize it. The interesting thing is, what will Democrats do about it? And Van Jones on CNN talks about how it's kind of ridiculous and is trying to be proactive. I give Van Jones credit for saying, listen, guys, whatever we're doing, we're looking at the polls. It's not working. We have to shift our strategy, because if we continue doing what we're doing, we will get crushed in the midterms. Okay, this is a major, major shift in the United States, and also, it goes into the whole inflation thing and stuff like that, but Van Jones just kind of calls out Democrats on CNN, and then, of course, you have the other people, the other form of Democrat who is totally against anything like that. It says Van Jones is an idiot. The white supremacists can have him. Any black person that turns against the Democrat Party and wants to join the GOP does not have a problem with being a victim of racism and hate. If you love yourself, you wouldn't be a Republican. Am I wrong? Prove it. So she's trying, I guess, to get responses, but she limited the overall people that can reply. This might be a bot. This person might be about Patriot92, blue wave emoji, hashtag Democratic Patriot. They could be a bot. They could be looking to stir up trouble, but it makes no sense. You say, am I wrong? Prove it. And then you limit the amount of people that can reply. And of course, this is the exact same type of thinking that when the Republicans trounce the Democrats in the midterms in the 2022 election, this person will just blame it on America being racist. That's what they'll blame it. They'll say, America, there's institutional racism. That's why Democrats lost, not because it's costing, $7 to fill up a gallon of gas, whatever. It costs $50 for most people to fill up their tank at this point, or more, especially if you live in the West Coast. It's not because of that. It's not because Americans have extremely low purchasing power due to record high inflations. It's not because of that. It's because America is racist. And if you vote Republican, you're racist. Always blame the other party. And Van Jones is saying, we got to do some self-reflecting and change our message because we're getting trounced right now in the polls. He's at least trying to change something. I'm not this Van Jones fan, but I try and be fair. I'll say I think that's a good strategy. Listen, if you're getting crushed, you have to call your base out and say, this is not working. This rhetoric is not working. The Latino people are siding with Trump. The Cubans in Florida are siding with Trump. Trump won Florida 2016 and 2020, and now Florida at this point, since the whole pandemic fiasco happened with California and New York being extremely restrictive states, now Florida is seen as more of a Republican state than a toss-up, which would be major for the Republicans. Also Ohio as well. Now we saw Georgia shift to the Democrats in 2020. They did a really good job flipping that, but we'll see if that flips back in 2024. Either way, this shows right here there's a major shift, and I think the craziest thing in the 21st century, in the true age of social media, Donald Trump getting called a racist every single day by CNN, getting called sexist, getting called a rapist. He's the worst thing in the world. His approval rating at the same point as Joe Biden is at right now was 42%. Biden's is at right around 40%. That's with Trump taking an artillery barrage. And this isn't me saying Trump's this unbelievable dude. This is just showing and depicting Trump had basically 99% of the mainstream media, maybe not 98, maybe like 90, because obviously Fox News is a major, they're going to be pro-Trump. Maybe like 90% of the media coverage slanted negative towards him. He still has a higher approval rating at this point than Joe Biden did 514 days into the presidency. That is historically bad stuff. You guys can just see this is actually a better way to look at it. 514 days. You can see Biden was ahead of Trump. He was actually over 50%, and he has just completely nosedived as inflation has risen, as overall prices on things, on goods have risen. And there he is compared to Obama. He's about 8 points below Obama. George W. Bush, 9/11. That's the 9/11 thing there. And George W. Bush had a very good one. But just compared to every other president tracking, looks like Biden is below every single one of them. Now, Gerald Ford, I mean, how many polls are they going to have, back in the 1970s? But you can see Biden is just so low at this point. Now, of course, with approval and disapproval, with approval ratings, Biden could do the greatest thing in presidential history, and there'll be conservatives that still disapprove of the job he's doing. But when you generally are up to 54% disapproval, a lot of independents are turning on you, and you look at the overall polls, there is a shift in America. And that's why some Democrats like Van Jones are going out and they're saying, listen, maybe we need to give these people some tough love. This is not working. We are getting trounced right now. Now, a lot of it is due to, again, the current state of our economic system with inflation, but still, it's like, you got to try something else because you're going to get trounced in the midterms, and you can't just blame it on racism. I'm sorry, you just can't. That tweet is just ridiculous. But again, honestly, that does sound like a troll, like maybe a bot that's trying to, a Democrat bot posing, whatever. They're probably not even a Democrat because it just makes no sense. I mean, if that is a real person, they're just completely unstable. And I don't know, guys, but I thought it was interesting. Biden falls off his bike. I mean, you don't want to laugh. Again, he should be in an old folks home. You don't want to laugh at him. It's sad. It really is. And that's the leader of the country. That's the guy they went with. So it is what it is. But at this point, Biden running again in 2024, I've already speculated it. There's no chance. He has zero chance to win. The Democrats or Biden will come out with a statement sometime in 2023 and say, I'm stepping down due to, my health not being there, whatever. Are you really going to run this dude out on the campaign trail at the age of 81 and try and get him reelected? It's completely unrealistic. There's no way they do it, especially with his approval rating where it is right now. An 81-year-old Joe Biden trying to get reelected and saying, yes, please elect me until I'm 86 years old, which would be when his eighth year of his second term would be. It just makes no sense to me. Absolutely none. And there are several polls that depict it. This is just, one thing. The overall, congressional poll is another one where Republicans now lead. And they're expected to do, very well in midterms. We'll see if that ends up happening in November. But the economy right now, the stock market, cryptocurrency, it's all way down. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.